Okay, imagine this scenario. It's late. You're either just waking up or maybe you're sitting up, working late. You glance over towards the corner of the room. And there, just for a split second, is a figure. It's completely black, human-shaped, but
Yeah.
totally featureless. And the instant you really focus on it, it's just gone, vanished.
And that experience, that terrifying little moment, is not unique. It's a globally reported phenomenon. Most people call them shadow people. Some of our sources refer to it as the black shadow, but it's the same thing. And today, we're doing a deep dive into what's actually going on there.
Right, what are people really seeing?
Exactly. Our mission today is to dig into all of it. We've gone through tons of witness accounts, but also all the major scientific attempts to, make sense of these figures. The goal is to separate the psychological stuff, the tricks of the mind that we can explain, from the observations that are, well, genuinely unexplained.
Because the core claim here, the thing that makes this so unsettling, is that witnesses, they always insist they were 100% awake. This wasn't a dream, it wasn't some nightmare they were shaking off. They claimed they were fully conscious when they saw this thing. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with what people consistently say they see.
The really striking thing about the shadow people phenomenon is just the consistency, the global consistency of the
But yeah, it's
description.
not regional at all.
Not at all. It
No.
doesn't matter if the report comes from Latin America, Europe, or the Middle East. The details are
Mm.
uncannily similar. It suggests there's some kind of universal trigger, whether
Yeah.
it's psychological or sensory.
Right, and our sources point to three really specific characteristics that always come up. First, the figure is always described as a black silhouette. Sometimes people even say it looks darker than a normal shadow, like it's absorbing the light.
Yes, like a void.
Mm.
And second, and this is critical, it has no distinguishable features.
No fake.
No face, no eyes, no clothes. It's just a featureless shape. Can't tell if it's male or female or what it's feeling, and that, of course, just ramps up the fear.
Of course. And the third point is the movement, which is what makes it so fleeting, so nightmarish.
Witnesses usually report one of two things. Either it moves with this, like, unnatural speed of blur across a wall or through a door.
Or it just vanishes.
Exactly. Disappears the instant you observe it, as if the act of looking at it just dissipates it.
It's that combination, I think, the speed and the total anonymity. It's just the primal fear of the unknown, but it's wearing this vaguely human shape.
Absolutely. But it goes beyond just the visual. The experience is often intensified by these really powerful sensory details that sometimes even happen before the person sees anything.
You mean like a feeling?
A very specific feeling. Many reports mention feeling a specific intense gaze, like something is staring right at them, even from the dark. And even more common is just this overwhelming sensation of a presence, a hostile presence in the room. They feel it before they see it.
That's fascinating. The idea of a presence suggests the brain's alarm systems are already firing before the eyes even confirm there's a threat.
Precisely. And that's our bridge into the scientific explanations. The brain is an incredibly efficient threat detection machine. That's an evolutionary trait, to protect us from predators in the dark. So it's constantly scanning. You give it low light, a quick movement, and the high anxiety of being alone. And that system can really, really overfire.
So, okay, if we accept that the brain is the main culprit here, at least in a lot of cases, and it's just running on primal fear, what are the big scientific theories for why it creates this specific human-shaped shadow?
The conventional view really gives us three main pathways, and they all center on these temporary glitches in how we process what we see and feel. The primary one, the one you hear about most in the literature, is the sleep paralysis connection.
Right. Oh yeah, as some of our sources called it.
Exactly. And to get it, you have to understand what sleep paralysis is. Your brain is basically caught between REM sleep and being awake. A disconnect happens. Your mind is conscious, you're aware, but your body is still in a state of muscle atonia. It's paralyzed. And because you can't move and often can't breathe deeply, you feel intense anxiety.
Yeah, your brain is awake, but your body is still asleep. That sounds like the definition of a panic attack right there.
It is. And in that panic state, the brain's visual cortex is desperately trying to make sense of the room around you. It sees shadows, pile of clothes on a chair, maybe it hears a creak. And because of that underlying terror, that feeling that something is wrong, it manufactures a threatening human shape. It gives the fear a physical form.
That makes a lot of sense for people who are clearly just waking up or falling asleep. But let me push back on that for a second. How common is sleep paralysis, really? If it's not something most people experience regularly, how does it account for just the sheer volume of these sightings?
That's a great point, and it's why we have to go beyond just SP. A related theory, but a distinct one, Focus is just on the brain's internal activity, even when you're fully awake. Intense, unexpected activity in the brain's specific fear region, we're talking mainly about the amygdala, can cause an involuntary hallucination.
So the fear comes first.
Yes. Think of it this way. The amygdala's job is to spot threats. If it misfires, maybe from stress, exhaustion, a chemical imbalance, that feeling of an existential threat just appears out of nowhere. The shadow person then becomes the brain's explanation for that overwhelming sense of a hostile presence. The fear literally creates the entity, not the other way around.
So the visual system is basically being told to invent a scapegoat for an internal panic signal.
Exactly. And then the third common explanation is much simpler. It's about pure visual mechanics, what our sources call peripheral
The
shadows.
things you see out of the corner of your eye.
Those quick, fleeting glimpses. Your peripheral vision is fantastic at detecting movement, but it's terrible with details.
Yeah, it's like trying to read a book by looking next to it. It's just a blur.
Precisely. So you see movement, a cat runs by, a curtain shifts, a car's headlights sweep across the wall. But because it's in your periphery, your brain just registers motion and dark shape.
Uh,
And since we're wired to look for human forms, it defaults to person. But by the time you turn your head to use your high-resolution central vision, the movement is over. The shadow's gone.
Okay, so for a large number of these cases, the explanation really points towards psychology, or a brain misfiring, or just a simple misinterpretation of movement in low light. That feels contained. Understandable, even if it's scary when it happens. But if we stop there, we wouldn't be doing this topic justice, because this is where the whole narrative shifts, and we get into the counterpoints that really challenge those neat psychological boxes.
This is where we move from the things we sort of understand to the true anomalies. While sleep paralysis and the fear response probably account for a lot of anecdotal reports, you have to address the claims from witnesses who were definitely not sleeping. People engaged in high-focus tasks, surgeons, drivers, engineers, reading complex plans, who still saw the figure.
And that leads to maybe the most fascinating and frankly challenging piece of contradictory evidence in all the source material, evidence that goes beyond someone's personal experience and into the objective record.
This is the moment that, for me, raises the biggest question. What happens when a camera sees the black shadow? There are documented claims, and the sources spend a lot of time on this, where home surveillance systems or motion-activated cameras have recorded a fast, dark shape passing through a room.
And we're not talking about some grainy old footage here. These are modern high-def cameras.
Exactly. And the crucial detail is this. The recording happens when there is no physical person, no animal, no obvious reflection in the room at that time. So if the shadow person is purely psychological, a trick of the observer's amygdala, then how can a neutral, objective recording device capture it? That one detail forces you to reconsider everything.
So if you rule out psychology and you rule out an actual person, you have to start looking at other physical explanations. What could make a fast-moving, featureless shadow show up on camera if it's not an entity, if it's just physics?
That's the next step. Since the camera footage defies the simple psychological models, we have to explore some of the more obscure physical and visual theories that researchers have proposed.
Okay.
One possibility is a rare visual processing disorder. We're not talking about fear anymore. This is about the physiology of the eye itself, or the visual cortex. It could be a persistent, repeatable visual artifact caused by something like retinal fatigue or a specific optic nerve condition. It might create these temporary structured blind spots that just happen to look vaguely human-shaped.
So your own eyes are misfiring, creating a constant low-level distortion that your brain then interprets as a threat when you see it in your periphery.
Exactly. But let's move to the most complex idea, which is all about light itself. Lighting fluctuations and shadow play. This theory suggests the figures aren't shadows of something, but shadows created by the chaotic interaction of different light sources.
What do you mean?
Okay, think about a room with 3 different lights. A flickering streetlight outside, a TV on low, and maybe moonlight coming through a window. When these sources conflict, the rapid changes, the wobbles in the power, especially with modern LEDs or fluorescent lights, can create incredibly complex and fast-moving shadow interactions.
I can kind of picture that, like overlapping spotlights on a stage making weird temporary shapes.
Precisely that. And if 2 light sources are slightly out of sync, the overlap of their shadows can create a zone of, super darkness. When one of those lights flickers, that dark zone can move at high speed, totally independent of any object. For a split second, it registers as a fast, opaque, human-like shape that disappears as soon as the light stabilizes. It's just physics playing a trick on our perception.
Wow. Okay, so we have the brain, the eye, and the physics of light itself all competing as explanations for the shadow people phenomenon. The complexity there is it's just astounding. It gives you three completely separate, rational ways to think about this.
And this brings us to the core conclusion from the sources, that while we have multiple strong theories, not a single one of them can fully explain or cover every single documented case. There's always an outlier.
The fully awake witness who's never had sleep paralysis, or the camera footage that you just can't explain away with a physical defect.
Right. And that brings us back to the one undeniable fact that ties all of this together. The sheer number of people, all over the world, who report seeing the exact same black shadow, with the same details and the same kind of unsettling solitary moments.
What's so fascinating is the consistency of that shape. Why a featureless human outline?
I think it just highlights how profound our neural wiring is. We are designed, above all else, to detect human shapes. And when our brain doesn't have enough information, it defaults to the most potentially threatening category, a featureless, hostile person.
It really forces you to question how certain you can be about what you're seeing, especially in low light. The brain fills in the blanks, and sometimes those blanks are terrifyingly human-shaped.
It's a powerful reminder that our visual reality is really just a construct. It's built from little fragments of light and dark that get interpreted by a survival-obsessed machine in our heads.
So we'll leave you with this final provocative thought, one that really captures the ambiguity here. We've laid out all the arguments. Is the black shadow just an understandable trick of complex light combined with the primal fear centers of the mind? Or, when you see that fast blur in the corner of your eye, is it actually something that moves unseen right there in the periphery of our world, just waiting for the light to fade? The ultimate fear isn't the ghost story. It's not knowing if what you saw was just a shadow from a wobble in the power grid or something actually standing with you in the room. Think about what stood out to you. Was it the deep dive into the amygdala or the physics of competing light sources? Let us know, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.